Hey, this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. I'm Pamela Riemenschneider, Retail Editor for Blue Book Services, and this is Greg Johnson, our Director of Media Development. And we're continuing our COVID-19 coverage, and I feel like we've turned a corner this week into, sure, for a while there we were talking about stock ups and panic buying. Now we're talking about, oh man, there's a whole lot of business that's suffering very badly and it continues to suffer. And you had a pretty great interview with someone from within the supply chain to talk about what's going on, particularly with the wholesale and distributor segment of the produce economy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's weird. The biggest fear right when the pandemic started was, how will the food supply be? How will the supply chain be? Will it hold up? Unfortunately, we've turned 180 degrees in that it's holding up so well that there's more supply than demand in the market right now. I talked to Steve Grinstead this week, who is CEO of Fresh Edge, which oversees a number of wholesalers, primarily in the Midwest. And he said about 80% of his customer base is food service. And right when restaurants started shutting down, they had to find a way to divert all that product into different channels. And they were successful in some of it, but there's too much of his customer base isn't able to take product right now. And there's too much product to divert to other channels that people are shopping. So he called it a catastrophe. You know, he was in two ways, both optimistic for the produce industry, because produce industry always figures something out, and they're already figuring out solutions and ways to divert product and still be productive. They're cutting SKUs, operations are moving and producing more efficiently. But the problem is taking half the market, half the demand away. The other half doesn't fill 100% of that. And it's a disaster. It's horrible. There's just way more product out in the market than can be received right now. We've been looking at crops this week with an agreement that Blue Book has with Ag Tools, an analytics company. And we've looked at different commodities from the fruit and vegetable. Today we had tomatoes and lettuce on, and almost across the board, we're seeing good supplies going all the way up in a normal season up until about mid-March. And then demand starts dropping, and then volume, they try to drop volume at the same time because there's less demand. I talked with Lisa Lockridge at FFVA yesterday about what Florida growers are dealing with. And so many growers there are coming into the prime part of their season. And so many of those crops like beans and tomatoes go to food service, and those markets aren't there. And so the secondary markets and food banks can only take so much. And then they're just having to plow up crops. And it's terrible.
I've been watching the retail numbers, and at first, retail sales were up 30%, 40% for fresh produce. And now, even in fruit, in the numbers that we got from IRI and 210 Analytics, fruit was only up 1.5% year over year. And that's sales dollars, not volume. Volume painted a little bit different picture, but it's still not enough to make up for all of this fresh produce that's going to get plowed under. We talked yesterday. We're like, well, are we going to start talking about disking under and dumping produce? And we could write 20 stories a day about this. People aren't buying more fresh produce. There's a reason why, and we've got to figure out how to get more fresh produce into homes, or we're going to have a serious problem, not next week, but 6 months from now, when we can't decide how much iceberg, for example, to plant, and we can't do any planning because we're not sure how that demand is going to come back.
I think a lot of us anticipated that demand would be hurt with all the restaurants going out of business, and obviously that's a huge market for the produce industry that wouldn't be available. I personally underestimated some of the fears I'm seeing from consumers about the produce department. And I guess I listen to the scientists, and it makes sense that you cannot get COVID-19 from food, And there's been zero studies out there showing that anyone can get it that way. It's a respiratory virus. You get it by breathing in particles or touching your face and getting it that way. You can't get it from food. But consumers aren't getting that message enough, and they're afraid of some of the things in their grocery stores. And I think the industry needs to find a way to get this message out more often, more different places, because fresh produce is the kind of thing that really helps people eat normally, eat healthily. There's so many opportunities with everyone cooking in their homes more without being able to get restaurants. Produce can be a real bright spot, and too many people are afraid of it. And you had an experience in social media this week. How can you go on there and be the voice of reason and you just get drowned out?
You know, I try. I feel like, and I called it chasing windmills. And for those of you who didn't take a lot of Spanish in high school, you don't understand that's Don Quixote. But I go on to social media ready to fight the good fight and fight the battle. But people are so irrational. It doesn't matter how much scientific evidence you present to someone about you do not need to wash your fruits and vegetables with soap. People don't want to hear it because they want a kill step. They want something to feel like I've done everything I can, my family's safe now, or they're just going to avoid it and buy produce in a can. The Produce Marketing Association came out with some research that consumer sentiment, and the one statistic that really like hurt me in my core was that right now consumers are treating fresh produce like a treat. And it's not a treat, it's an essential. You need to eat fruits and vegetables. And people are just saying, well, I'm going to avoid it right now because I'm not sure it's safe. I'm not sure that I can get it clean the way that it needs to get clean, no matter what the science says. People don't want to listen. And you know, last night when I keyboard warriored on a mom's group and on Facebook, I just walk away, and every time I look back at my phone and see that, you know, someone mentioned me in a comment, I'm always like, oh great, is this someone else going to ask me if they can use this hippie quackery soap? It isn't really soap, because they can use it to brush their teeth too. I shouldn't, but I do anyway, because I really believe in the produce industry. There's got to be a better way to reach consumers in a way that they're going to believe and a way that they're going to trust. How do we build trust when they're hearing fear from every other angle? I don't know.
I guess we just need credible messengers, and we've got to find those messengers. If they don't want to believe people in the industry because so many people are trying to sell them something, we need them to believe doctors. We need them to believe registered dietitians, messages in grocery stores. I'm not even sure that would work right now, because anytime people are in grocery stores, they're rushing through and they're preoccupied. They're wearing masks. They're trying to stay 6 feet away from somebody else. So that's not really the message. I think maybe the message is through media and social media, and finding a way to have more people representing produce telling the truth about its safety.
And I really think that that's everyone in the produce industry. And you mentioned something that people trying to sell you something. I think that it's every single person in the produce industry who has a stake in the produce industry needs to show that they believe in produce too. And the medium that is the most effective right now, in my opinion, is social media. Just get on there and show what you're doing and what you're eating and how you trust produce. I'm going to go downstairs here at lunchtime and wash some romaine and show you that the only thing that I use, the only tool that I use to wash romaine is a salad spinner, because I puffy heart love my salad spinner. And it's just water. That's all you need. And I'm going to blast it out as much as I can, show every person I know. I have 1,000 friends on Facebook. You know, that'll get to that message as far as I can get it. I've got a couple hundred followers on my personal Instagram. If I do this, and if you do this, and if someone else does this, every person who's on social media who's part of the produce industry shares their own message. Hopefully we can get it a little farther than, you know, people who have no expertise and no knowledge, who are just spreading fear instead of positivity. So that's the best I can do. And it's all I can do right now. So
Well, you
it's a
can
pretty bleak
amplify the
message.
message and have it be picked up by others, and it can grow exponentially. We've been all been seeing lots of charts that have exponential growth. And fortunately, it's not as bad as it appeared a month ago.
Hmm.
It'd be really nice if we could see the message that food and fresh produce is safe gets shared exponentially. I have a question for you. That lettuce in your kitchen, did you happen to buy it at Subway?
No, no, I did not.
But you could.
You could. That was the other topic we wanted to talk about was a couple of national, it's not news that food service distributors are pivoting toward a grocery model, produce boxes, Produce Box Direct coming from ProAct. We've got some other efforts through Produce Alliance. A lot of their members are selling produce boxes direct to consumers. And that's a great way to keep the doors open and find an alternative channel for some sales. But now we're seeing restaurants get into the gig, and Subway and Panera both announced grocery concepts in the last week. And the thing is that I really hope that if they're actually calling themselves grocery, they're going to offer more than just the stuff that was already on their menu, because that's not relevant and useful to consumers. I don't know
No,
too many
it's got to be
people.
considerably better than what you can get at a grocery store. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Subway. I like Subway sandwiches, but the meat is no better than the meat I can get at the grocery store.
No, well, it's got to provide you something that you're not getting from the grocery store. And there is a problem right now with people who want contactless online ordering and pickup, and a restaurant can do that. However, they have to be able to offer more than, I went on and I logged on and I found a market that has Subway, and I put the zip code into Knoxville, Tennessee. That's one of their first 250 markets that they're doing this in. And you can go onto Subway and buy cucumbers, tomatoes, onions, a 5-pound bag of shredded iceberg lettuce, which
That would be a
I
good prop for our video.
it would be. I wish they had it in Austin. I would buy a 5-pound bag of iceberg. What am I gonna do with this? I don't have a turtle or anything that I could feed it to. I don't think that there's a whole lot of consumer demand for that. There's a mom and pop in my area here that is selling direct to consumers, and they're doing a way better job of it, because what they're doing is selling grocery staples that are in high demand at the grocery store that no one can get their hands on, like flour, eggs, milk, bread, butter, things like that. But then they're also selling apples and carrots and onions and a lot of the basic fresh produce items, berries, for example. And they will either sell it to you in consumer quantity levels, or they will box up something and give you like a grocery box for the week. That seems like a way better idea than going to Panera and trying to buy Fuji apples and a bagel from Panera. I mean, it doesn't make sense, and
Their
it's not really
bagels and
actually that
bread
great.
is pretty good, though.
Sorry, what?
Their bagels and bread is good.
No, I mean, their bagels and bread are good. Sure, why not? I would buy a consumer level quantity of bagels and bread from Panera, but you could already do that. You could walk into Panera and buy a loaf of bread any day. If they're going to call themselves a grocery, they actually have to have grocery. They have to be a grocer. And right now they're just selling bags of stuff they're getting from their food service distributor, which why not? Food service distributors need the business right now, but consumers need a better offering than that.
Yeah, I do like your small independent store example, because that's a way for consumers to still support local stores that are um, teetering on the edge of going out of business because of the pandemic and shutdowns. And that is a way to support local, and I think that's a good outlet.
Oh yeah, the burger place near me is doing a fantastic business. They're known for their really high quality meat, and one of the things that's in short supply at the grocery store is ground beef. And so the local burger place is selling this fancy farm ground beef, 2 pounds for $7. I mean, that's a great deal, and you're also supporting a local business. It's a fantastic business model. So there are opportunities out there that consumers are ready and willing to embrace, but you got to do it smart. You can't just be selling, round slicing tomatoes direct to consumers. I mean, no.
Yeah, and salami.
Salami. No, it's the 5-pound bag of iceberg that I don't get. All right, well, that's it for the week in review. And if you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.